Hey, look, it started.
It's counting.
It's counting. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Bex.
I'm handsome Rob.
Did you forget your name?
No, I just had to double check whether I wanted to say handsome or not.
Aw, you've got a face made for radio, babe. Of course you're
Yeah,
handsome.
yeah, you got to start it out right. You got to introduce who you really are.
So this is our show Off Ice. For those of you that don't know, we used to do a radio show together in Antarctica, and we decided to make a podcast. God knows why, but this is our show called Bex and Rob, separated at last.
Yeah, it's probably going to be our best show because we're not actually together.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah,
um,
and we did not maintain that social distancing in that little radio booth, man.
oh,
That
that would be
was
rough
that was
right now.
within 6 feet. Yeah,
I mean,
that
I
would be.
guess there's no COVID there, so we'd be
There
just
is no
fine.
COVID there. Yeah, this is
We could
true.
cuddle
But
up and be just okay. I mean,
but
I wouldn't
we
be okay
wouldn't want
cuddling up.
to. We would hate it. We could physically cuddle up and not make each other ill. Except we would make each other ill.
Yes. So, just a little backstory here, just in case. Our radio show in Antarctica is also called "Why Are They Friends?" Um, because why are we friends?
I still have not figured it out. It's been what, a year and a half now? How long's it been?
That sounds about right. Yeah,
Yeah.
year and a
And
half.
I still
Hate
don't know
each
why
other.
we talking to each other. I mean, I guess there's just, in Antarctica you can't be too picky, like,
Yeah, beggars can't be choosers when it comes to friends.
yeah. And I mean, I'm friends with a lot of people, but you really
I
have
don't. I'm a
nobody.
beggar.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. This is just my act of charity.
This is what we call pity friending.
This is penny friending.
Oh. So
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
welcome to our friendship, everybody.
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, and who knows what the show is going to be about? Like, it could be about anything. Um, I
Yeah.
mean, today I'd assume we'll talk about butterflies or.
Yeah. The trees. I don't think there's anything going on in the world,
I
really.
mean, the trees here are a little wet, to be honest. It's been raining.
Oh, shocker. In Washington?
Yeah, it's pretty wet.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow. Never would have guessed.
no, it's great. The sun's actually finally starting to come out. It's been nice the last couple days. The moon was out last
It's
night.
oh,
Luckily, it
oh,
wasn't full.
oh, yep. Gotta watch out for those full moons with Rob.
Um, yeah. So, Bex, what are you up to in the world these days?
Um, I've decided for my own enjoyment, just to confine myself and all of my family members to my house. Um, I thought it would just be a really interesting social experiment of how long does it take for me to not kill somebody. Um,
You haven't murdered anybody yet.
Not yet.
You thinking about it though?
It's like sometimes.
We
Like,
maybe shouldn't talk about this on recorded radio, but it sounds like
it's
you're trying to
fine.
kill
As long
somebody.
as I don't kill, if I do kill someone, then this probably counts towards intent. But if I don't actually kill anyone, then it's fine. It's just,
You being a little crazy. It's okay.
me being a little nuts. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'm quarantined, or shelter in place, like,
Like
three
the rest of
quarters of the
us.
rest of America. Yeah.
Yep.
Um and I've got my mom, my dad, my aunt, and my 92-year-old grandmother. One of my 92-year-old grandmothers here. So I try and, we're just trying to be extra cautious with all of these old people in my house. I'm
Do
calling
you
my
have any
parents old now, which they're not thrilled about,
Do
but
you have any pets?
have one cat. He is
Oh, that's
currently
nice.
sleeping at my feet.
Excellent.
Um, yeah, and is simultaneously needy and will bite my face off if I touch him. So
Oh, so it's
yeah,
a cat. He's a cat, is what you're
is a
basically
cat.
saying.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
cat. That's
Yeah.
basically the definition of a cat.
Don't
Yeah,
touch it, but make sure to touch it.
yeah, exactly. Pet me, pet me. Oh, you've pet me too much. Stop it.
Oh
Why
man.
are you not petting me? I'm gonna bite your hand now.
um,
Where are you quarantining? What's
uh,
what's your home life?
I'm quarantined over near Seattle in Auburn. I'm actually, I guess, not in Auburn. I don't know where I'm actually at. Um, And I've got my friend Matt. He's here, and then we've got his dog Mia.
Oh,
She's pretty
what
wonderful to have during a quarantine.
what kind of dog is she?
Like a German Shepherd
Okay.
type dog. Very excitable. Very
Yes.
excitable.
Which is just what you want when it's hard to go out and constantly entertain dogs.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. He doesn't really take his dog out too much as it is. So,
Well, maybe that's why she's so excitable. You gotta walk your dog.
oh, I get it. I get it. It's not my dog. I can only do so much. um,
Oh man.
but yeah, me and the dog
Yeah.
go outside. We chill. She lays there on the ground,
Yeah. Yeah.
runs
That
around a
sounds
bit,
nice.
and then I get in the hot tub every once in a while. He's got a hot tub, which is nice.
I know. It's the perks of being with my family right now is the hot tub.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hot tubs in the evening with probably way too much vodka in my drink. It's a
Oh,
good way.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I
Getting
bought
a
some
little
mezcal
toasted.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's mezcal?
mezcal. This is a new thing that I've just learned. So for anybody else that wants to know, mezcal is like tequila. Basically, it's made
Oh,
from agave
oh,
as well. So you don't
oh,
like it, obviously.
no.
But it's made from agave, where tequila is made from a blue agave. Mezcal's made from basically any other agave out there, as long as it's
Why?
not
Why
blue
would you?
agave.
I don't understand why people poison themselves with tequila. Poison yourself with something delicious, like literally any other kind of alcohol.
Yeah, no, I find it pretty delicious.
Oh,
This one's
oh.
it's a little smoky, to be honest. So it's maybe a bit much. I could use it a little here and there, but whew,
I'm just
like,
I'm just putting cheap ass vodka in my Sprite or cheap ass rum in my Coke.
I buy nice tequila so that
I
it tastes better.
I tried having that. I mean, would you have considered
It was all right.
Ian's
It
tequila?
was it tasted decent, but it wasn't like high end or anything.
I mean, I just thought it still tasted like the same shitty ass vodka I've had in way too many shots.
It's not for everybody. You mean shitty ass tequila though, right? Because
Oh
you
yes,
love
shitty ass.
vodka. It sounds like, or
Yes,
rum.
or rum or whiskey, just anything that's not tequila.
Just give me the bottom shelf. Whatever the cheapest stuff you got, give it to me.
That's not true with whiskey, actually. Whiskey, I do tend to pay for a little bit, not like high quality by any means. I'm, not rolling in dough here, but not until those $600 checks from the government start coming in. But but I'll pay for something a little bit nicer because I do enjoy whiskey, so I'll pay for something a little nicer if I can.
Well, that's reasonable. I mean, that's kind of
But
why I do
rum
that
and
with
rum and
tequila.
vodka just down the
Yeah,
hatchet you go.
yeah, I'm that way with the vodka myself.
Yeah. Oh
Unless it's
man.
Tito's, of course. Oh,
Oh yeah. If anyone's listening and is drinking with Rob, make sure to give him Tito's. Real good reaction. Real good time.
why don't you just give me rat poison? I mean,
You already are taking it. You're drinking
yeah,
tequila. You are already having rat poison.
I felt great this morning, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I felt ill
Um,
this morning, but that could have just been from the amount of vodka I had last night.
and it could be because you're not like buying, maybe not the bottom of the shelf, but second
I
shelf.
mean, it comes in a plastic bottle, so I feel
Yeah,
like it's
that's
not too high quality.
it's never a good sign. It's never a good sign for how your
It's
morning is
like
gonna be the next day.
I want to say I don't even know how big it is. It's a big, you know.
Probably a half gallon
It's
is,
like
is
going
pretty
to
standard.
Costco. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
the
it feels like
Costco
even bigger.
size.
Yeah, it's like Costco size of vodka.
We buy our vodka in bulk.
Oh man.
So yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like we're both drinking quite a bit during quarantine.
During quarantine, yeah.
Yeah.
Um trying to keep safe. I don't, as far as I'm aware, don't know anyone that's gotten coronavirus, thankfully. I mean, I know it's
It's spreading.
just
Yeah.
awful and it's spreading and we're all likely to get it, but
Yeah. In the long
trying to
run,
flatten that curve by staying home. Um
it is
yeah.
pretty awful. I don't know what the numbers are today, but in the last 2 days, it was like basically 2,000 people died in the last 2 days.
You know what we can do? We can actually look this up because we're not in a desolate continent with no internet.
Well, I looked it up last night. I just don't know, how many people have died today so far in that sense.
According to Google, the United States says confirmed 265,000 cases. Oh, 265,001. Recovered just under 12,000 and deaths 6,766. And
Let's
that's
see.
total USA. New York is where the most of it is. I mean,
Oh yeah,
a third of the cases in are in New York. In New York, half of the recoveries are in New York, and a sixth of the or no, a third of the deaths are in New York.
let's see.
So California, where I'm at, has about 10,000 cases, 60 people recovered, and 215 deaths. Whereas New York has nearly 2,000 deaths and 84,000 cases.
Yeah, it's New York itself is almost up to 400 deaths today.
I've seen some just you don't even have the words for it. Just jaw dropping articles of what it's like in going into these hospitals, and it's just like
Oh
it's a
yeah,
war zone. I mean, doctors are having to think, and I remember reading about this in Italy a little a couple weeks ago. Is they're having to think about. I mean, they're lacking the supplies so much that they're having to think about, okay, if this patient has cancer and coronavirus, the chance of them making through it is pretty low. We should save this ventilator for someone else.
yeah.
It's like wartime. It's triage. You save who is most likely to save, and it's awful, but it's also, I mean, it does make sense why they need to do it. I mean, they shouldn't have to do it, but
Well,
you know
it's the reason we need to flatten that curve is because
yeah,
we're already having to triage people in it. We don't want to have to
yeah,
triage more people in
yeah,
that
if we
sense.
if we can stay home and you know
When you
I
have
mean,
20 ventilators and 30 people that need them,
yeah.
half of those people, or 10 of those people, 30%
i've
are
I've seen
done.
they're like somehow jerry rigging it that you can do like you can like attach multiple patients to one ventilator. Some doctor came up with a way and they all, but the trick is everyone needs to have about the same lung capacity, so you can use
Yeah.
one machine. But yeah, they've been messing with them to try and make them last. Some of the ventilators that they got from the federal government aren't working. That it was there was some contract dispute. The contract ended with this company that monitor that checks all of the federal medical equipment that they
Hmm.
had in their stock. There's some company that had the contract to keep doing checks on them, making sure they were functional, and the contract like expired last year, and there was some kind of dispute, and so the new company didn't actually start doing any checks until this past January. So a lot
A
of
lot of
this
this
a lot of
stuff
this
not even
equipment is
checked.
just not it's not work it doesn't work. It's
Mm,
it's getting to hospitals and people are like
mm.
excuse
This
me.
isn't helpful.
This is the opposite of helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, this whole
and
thing is definitely like showing how fragile our system is in so many ways.
yeah, I'm just seeing an article. I haven't read it yet, but coronavirus first savage parts of Washington state, or sorry, first ravaged parts of Washington state. Now there are signs of a change. So I mean, it seems like in Seattle they're starting to see that shelter in place taking effect. I mean, it was going to take a few weeks to really see the uh, the effects
Oh,
of
I
it,
mean,
but
I think all around we're starting to see like the places that have started to shelter in place and quarantine and whatnot. We're starting to see that curve start to flatten.
yeah,
I mean, it's still got a ways up to go before we hit the top of that curve. I mean,
yeah.
we're like 2 weeks out from the top of that curve.
Spain and Spain and Italy are just starting to flatten are starting to plateau.
Yeah.
So hopefully they head back down soon.
Well, and our peak is supposed to be we're looking at like April 15th.
Yeah,
Um, and the what we're seeing here, I'm using worldometers.info. Um, they're saying that assuming full mitigation, on April 15th, at the peak of the curve, we'll be hitting about 2,200 deaths a day,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is it's great. That's basically like a 9/11 every day.
Yeah. It's I saw that. It's like we've now reached more deaths than 9/11, and when we hit that, it's just I don't know, it hit in a whole different way. Just
We're well over double
yeah, and just
now.
putting it in a perspective that I think people understand. I mean, just saying, hey, there's, I mean, 6,000 deaths, 3,000 deaths sound like a lot, but when you put it in the perspective of something that people already kind of know, like nine
Yeah,
eleven, the
yeah.
number of people that died in 9/11, I think it's easier for people to kind of grasp the severity of it.
Well, another way to think of it too is like right now we're at 6,700 deaths. In like that, and in that sense, I mean, really, people didn't really start dying until we got home from the ice, in a sense. Um,
Yeah,
so in a month and a half, we're at 6,700 deaths. In less than a week, we're gonna have doubled that number,
yeah,
which is wild.
it's
And then a week
astonishing.
from that, we'll have doubled that number again.
Yeah, and just
Um,
I mean,
like the number of deaths is exponentially rising.
yeah. I'm reading people's stories of people who have recovered. You know, they're saying, you know, it felt like there was glass in their lungs, like they thought they were dying. I mean, they were. It was that, you know,
Yeah.
and
Oh
it
yeah.
just, you know, people say, oh, it's just like the flu, it's just like the cold, and I was one of those people in the beginning. I was like,
I
oh,
mean,
it
yeah,
can't be
especially
that
on the
bad.
ice.
Yeah, you know, yeah, especially when you're on the ice and the information you're getting is very limited of how much you know you can actually research and
Yeah.
like, oh, it can't be that bad. It's fine. Everyone's overreacting. And, you know, then you just get a little bit more information. It's like, wow, this is brutal. This is so much worse than the cold or flu. This is just awful.
Well, and the scary part is we also don't know how it's going to affect us, like in the long
Oh,
run. Like if you get it,
yeah.
and how like that idea of like, oh, it felt like I had glass in my lungs. Like how does that actually affect your lungs, and how is that going to affect you a year
Yeah.
from now?
Yeah. Is your lung capacity going to be diminished? Or you know, yeah.
Yeah,
Is it going to
it's
be, it's going
absolutely.
to be really interesting to see what happens. And I know that they're kind of coming out with immunity tests to, which, and other countries are doing this and you can kind of see you know how long they're trying to eventually be able to figure out how long is this immunity going to last, you know, in 2 years is it going to all pop back up again, and by hopefully then we have a vaccine, or you know is this like chickenpox where you tend to have immunity for almost your whole lifetime, you know, is you know what kind of immunity do you get from this?
Well, and especially having all the different strains of it already. Like there's
Yeah,
already like 8 different strains.
yeah, it's
Can you get each different one?
yeah, can you get each different one? You know, if you get it mildly, does that create enough antibodies to be able to protect against it as long as if you get it severely? You know, it's yeah,
Hmm.
that's interesting. It's really interesting to look at also these maps. I was just slightly changing topics, but these maps of people who stay home, people who don't.
Hmm.
You can see, and they've got it, you know, it's like they take it from cell phone data, which can be a whole nother topic of a little terrifying that they have this, but you know, it's like, you know, they have it in five different blocks of colors, two greens, two yellows, and a red of people who have moved. um uh
They're going out and going about.
yeah,
They're going a
yeah,
certain distance or farther,
people
kind of
who
thing.
moved, people who haven't moved. Yeah, I'll send you this.
Yeah.
It's on the New York Times. um
Yep.
and yeah, so you can see, like, you know, in lots of California, we haven't been moving for quite a long time. Montana actually has not been moving for quite a bit, but that could be because people in
Who
Montana
moves
don't
in
need to
Montana?
move. I mean, that, you know, they've got a lot of property. They, you know, probably
You
grocery
don't go to
stores are
the
far
store as
away.
often.
Yeah, so
Yep.
you tend to stock up anyways. The South is all very red, which means they are still traveling a lot. That could be because of these later shelter in place orders that they've been given. The
Yep.
disease didn't seem to affect the Southeast as quickly as, I mean, it didn't. It started more California, Washington, Oregon, and New York, and now is it's just starting to spread down there. So it'll be interesting to watch this map and how it changes
Yeah.
um, over the next coming weeks. Now that you know places like Florida and Georgia have, and these other surrounding states have these shelters in place. in
Hmm.
effect throughout the whole state. Yeah. Hmm. Just crazy. It's all so crazy. My grandmother was like, I mean, this is a woman who was alive during the Great Depression and World War II, and like and Nixon and the Vietnam. Like, this is a woman who's
Hmm.
lived through a lot. She's 92 years old, but she was telling me, it was like, man, your generation has gone through a lot. There was I mean, we had 9/11, and then we had our Great Recession, and now this, and a lot of us are pretty young that have lived through all of this.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see the effects this ends up having in the long run.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, there's economic effects, the healthcare effects, the political effects. I mean,
yeah,
a
oh
lot
yeah.
of like we have a an election this year. We have a presidential election this year.
Which is also wild in that sense of like, I think the biggest downside of that in all ways is that we won't be we're not going to be thinking rationally like we oh well do we
Yeah,
normally think rationally, um but it's that idea of we're going to be thinking like in a panic situation as
yeah,
opposed to long-term thought, which is, I mean, we are in a panic situation in a sense, but at the same time there is still, I think there's still a need to think long term in that sense.
yeah. It'll be interesting because in my opinion, I feel like when there's economic instability, we tend to go for more conservative.
Yeah,
This the and so, but the conservative right now has not been great for the healthcare, and people are really worried about healthcare, which is kind
it's
of
true.
more a more liberal leaning. So it'll be interesting to see what people's main concern is come the election. Right now it's
Well, and
kind of
how they,
healthcare, but it could
yeah.
be it could be the economy because
Well, it'll also be interesting to me to see how, because like you said, I mean, there is generally that, I feel like there's that like lean to both of those, but at the same time, I think that, especially right now, there's an interesting dynamic where things feel backwards in a lot of ways, where things might
hmm
lean kind of the opposite direction, where it almost feels like people are like the panic kind of concept is leaning more towards the liberal side, and then the health side is strangely leaning more towards the conservative side,
yeah,
which feels funny to me. At the
it
same
does.
time,
It's
it
a
doesn't
little odd.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out and where we all
yeah.
go, a
I
year from
mean,
now.
the Democratic National Convention has been pushed back a month.
Yeah.
It's now in mid-August. I believe Ohio just made every single voter at home mail ballot.
uh, uh,
Thank
I know what you're talking about, the
words.
mail-in ballot.
Mail-in ballots, yeah.
It's not what it's called,
Absentee
but
ballot
yeah.
absentee ballots, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if every state just makes I mean, I've been absentee ballots since I became a voter and when I was turned 18. I just have always done absentee ballots. Um,
Me too.
but yeah, so I mean, but that affects people who don't have a home. If you are homeless, how do you vote? If you Yeah.
That's a great point. As a person that's homeless but still has a mailing address, I'd never actually thought of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, if you
Um,
don't have any way to go in and vote, your interests aren't being taken
I
into
mean,
consideration.
I think that we should try to set them all up as absentee ballots, but at the same time, that's actually a really important point on why we still need um, in-person voting
Walking, yeah,
polls.
in-person
Yeah.
voting, yeah. And if all the people that could do absentee did, I think that would take a lot of the pressure off of, some people are waiting, especially with people, various
Oh,
governments
totally.
shutting down, different precincts, different voting places,
Yeah, being able to
for
help people
whatever
that
the
are
reason.
standing in line
Yeah.
for like 4 hours at a time.
Yeah, there was this guy in Texas who stood in line for a primary for 7 hours. He was the last person. He stood in line for 7 hours. It's like people cannot afford to do that. They have work, they have kids, they need sleep, they need to eat. They can't We should not be having this system where it takes you 7 hours to vote. It's
Yeah.
just boggles the mind. Like if you can send me my absentee ballot in Antarctica, like or when I lived in New Zealand, sent it to New Zealand, I'm sure we can find a way to make it so people don't have to spend 7 hours voting.
Yeah, that's super wild.
But yeah, but I mean the campaigns with Biden and Bernie have stopped, so it's I mean if our pause, so it'll be really interesting to see who gets picked. Oh,
Yeah, I got my opinions on this election, and I don't know. It's
yeah.
just doesn't feel um, very American anymore.
No. Well, what someone was thinking, oh, what someone said to me a while ago is, what we're talking about. What happens if like Trump postpones the election or Congress postpones the election? If the government postpones the election because of safety,
Hmm.
it would be unsafe. What happens? And they were saying, well, even if the election doesn't happen, the election kind of has to happen because if it doesn't, Trump
We don't have a
is
president.
Trump is not, as soon as the inauguration was supposed to happen in January, whatever, Trump is no longer president. He doesn't just
Yeah,
stay there because we haven't elected someone new, and that means that the vice president is out. The Speaker of the House,
all of those
Nancy
elected
Pelosi,
officials.
yeah, well, she won't have been elected again, because it's every 2 years, so it would fall to the fourth in line or the third in line, the president pro tempore of the Senate. So it'd be this guy who's basically in charge of the Senate, um, who would because he
Is
was
that the not even the Speaker of the House, is it?
no, because Speaker of the House is elected every 2 years. So
So that's like the
Speaker
is that
House of
Pelosi or
Representatives.
whatever?
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi. So House of Representatives are elected every 2 years.
Yeah,
So they're constantly running for reelection. But so she it wouldn't be her. She would be next in line after the vice president,
but
but
she's not there
because
anymore.
but she won't have been elected either. So um unless California does all their elections and she
Yeah.
gets reelected. But yeah, so then it would go to since senators are every 6 years they're elected, and this guy was elected, I
Oh,
want to say in 2016 or 2018. He would still be in office. He's not running for reelection right now. I think his name's like Chuck Grassley or something. I can't
I'm
remember his name,
I'm
but
not sure.
yeah, but so he would be he would be president if we pushed off the election. He would be president, which is
It's an interesting concept. I had not even thought about that. Like, I mean, who knows where we'll be, 6 months from now in that sense.
yeah, yeah.
Hopefully, we're not at a
I
point
mean,
where we're still having to push things off like that.
yeah. And it's, I think if we had a Democratic nominee, it could be pushed back a bit. But because we don't even the primaries aren't finished, we don't have a Democratic nominee, then people can say one way or the other, oh, this person's more likely, but until everyone has voted,
Yeah,
until it's in, neither one of them is the Democratic nominee.
and yeah, no, totally.
Although I do
That'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, especially after all of this going
I
on.
feel like some delegates are required to vote how their state voted or how their people voted, but some delegates aren't required. So it's possible at the national convention that they could just pick someone. I'm not
Well, if it's a
positive on that though.
contested convention in that sense, then yeah, definitely that's kind of the way it ends up working. They kind of just kind of vote
Yeah,
as a
which is
group.
great. I love that my vote completely means nothing.
Yeah, no,
So awesome.
it's definitely a weird system where we're like that's why we're not in a democracy in that sense. We're like
Yeah.
your vote doesn't actually count. It's the
Yeah.
person that you voted for's vote.
Yeah. How did we
Um,
get delegates? Who chooses delegates?
I looked into that one time and I don't remember how that works actually. Um,
How are delegates chosen?
I mean, the weirdest part in a lot of ways where it feels like this is part of the American uh like voting system but or electoral system, but it definitely, especially at this point, it starts to feel more like it's part of the American party system.
Yeah.
Like what we're doing right now, like delegates and all that, that has absolutely like nothing to do with who becomes president.
Yeah.
I mean, it does in the long run, but like right
Yeah.
now, it's like such a weird. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense at all.
Our
It's
entire
all
political system.
nonsense.
Nonsense.
Oh,
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've been seeing the CDC has expected people to tell expected to tell that everyone should start wearing masks. Um, it's it was
I
like at
was
first it was like only do it if you're sick or you're exposed to someone sick, or
but now
like because
just do it.
they wanted to save all those masks for you know
Yeah,
frontline workers, which totally makes sense. I mean, these people
absolutely.
hoarding masks is ridiculous. So, but I think they're gonna make a recommendation that people wear cloth masks in public. Make one um, kind
Well,
of
and for me, it's I was thinking about it yesterday where it's like, oh my gosh, I might have to start walking around with my friggin' neck gaiter on.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel so weird. Like, this is what I wear in Antarctica. Why am I
I didn't
walking
even think
around
about
town with
doing
this?
that. My mom found some fabric. It was like a pair of her pants
Hmm.
from the late 60s. Like this is some wild ass fabric. And she found it and it's really good like tightly woven material, so it'd be really good for masks. So we were going to turn that into some masks. And but I didn't even think about that. The neck gaiter. I've got a good neck gaiter that I could have been wearing to the
Oh
stores.
yeah. Well, and
I
it's
mean,
easy. It works well.
I keep my distance from people, but yeah, yeah, but I'll have to start wearing that now. Oh man,
Yeah.
thank you, Antarctica. I had this big scarf. I can't remember what they're called. Afghans. This big Afghan that I was wearing a lot to keep because it provides a lot of warmth.
Oh yeah.
I was wearing it around, or really cuts the wind down, which is nice. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to need it in the States. I'll leave it in Antarctica for next year. And now I'm like, dang it, I wish I had it because I could latch it around my face really well. I feel like it's a pretty good fabric for kind of keeping. I could keep everything tightly in. I was yeah. And now I'm like ah.
It's such a weird world we live in now,
It's
where it's
such
like a month ago, if somebody was I mean, okay, maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, if somebody was walking around town with a neck gaiter on, you'd be like, "What the heck is wrong with that person?"
yeah,
I mean, I
like
guess it's middle of winter, but other than that, like, you
yeah,
look very weird. You're walking into a store with a neck gaiter up, like, "Oh, is that guy
yeah,
gonna rob us?"
exactly.
And now it's like, "Can you please walk around with a neck gaiter on your face?"
No, no, now it's you've got people wearing, like, trash bags as hats with, like, full, like, preparing for a nuclear holocaust, like,
Oh,
kind of
like gas mask?
gas mask, yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, they've, like, duct taped trash bags so none of their skin is exposed, and I'm just it's like you've got or, like, I saw this one picture of a woman with, like, a kitchen sponge just
Oh
wrapped
god.
around her mouth.
Yeah.
There's some beautiful ones. But
People are
yeah,
crazy.
now it's totally that's like the norm. Like this is I mean, maybe that's still the fringe, but
Yeah, that's not
but
necessarily
but it's a
norm.
lot more normal to just be walking around with your face and your body completely covered up. But what I
So
really
you
wonder
say like that sponge thing, like it looks funny, but at the same time, you're like, "Nah, I get it."
yeah, but I wonder does it actually work? Like is that sponge really like are you really
I hope
protecting
it's not a
yourself?
used sponge, you know?
Yeah, used it to wipe off the coronavirus surfaces, then put it in your mouth.
I hate sponges in the
Oh,
first place. I hate
oh,
sponges.
do you hate like the texture or the
It's the concept of they hold on to water, so they're just to me, they're just like this thing that is made to blow.
It's true. Oh man. But I do wonder if these people taking off their masks and taking off their trash bags duct taped to their body, if they are doing it properly so that they're not exposing themselves to the like say if someone
But
sneezed on your mask,
I would say
if you touch the
like,
outside of the mask and then touch your face,
yeah. I would say
you've
there's a
just
good 90% chance that a lot of them are doing it
yeah.
wrong. Like, there's been a study that 30% of medical professionals take their gloves off wrong.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
it's you've gotta really be trained properly to do it and be thinking about it. Like, I've done in first aid courses I've taken, they've taught me how, and
mhm.
I'm pretty sure I could do it, but like it is like this. It is a little bit of a mind fuck trying to think. Okay, how do I do it without actually touching the thing, like without touching
Yeah,
my skin?
how do you make yeah, no, I
But
mean,
the
I'm
best
pretty
thing
well
you could do is
practiced at it, but it's
okay, you
definitely
take
one of
off your
those, like
gloves and then just wash your hands. It's
That's
like,
yeah. No, I mean, and that's what you're
yeah,
supposed to do anyway. You take your gloves off, wash your hands, like, and that's where a
yeah.
lot of people are having problems too. Is like, oh, I had gloves on, so I took them off, and I'm just fine. And it's like, no,
Yeah,
no,
well,
no,
it's like,
you're still
or
dirty.
I had gloves on when I went into the store, and then I touched my car keys and my car and my steering wheel, and then I took my gloves off in the car, and then I touched all of these things again, my car keys, and it's like, okay,
Yeah,
well, if you've touched these things, that you need to. That's
that's in
not
a
how
lot
it
of ways.
works.
That's in some ways what's most difficult. It's like I want to bring hand sanitizer to the store with me,
Yeah,
and I get out of the store, and I now have to reach in my pocket to grab my hand sanitizer to put it on.
yeah,
So now my pocket is obviously dirty with whatever was on my hands.
yeah.
Um,
I've
I
got
it's tough.
Yeah, I've got like I put hand sanitizer. I've got one in my purse and one in my um or in my tote bag really,
Mhm,
and one in my car. So I'll hand sanitize before I go in,
mhm.
and then go through the store, come out, and then I will uh hand sanitize my hands. I can kind of easily reach into my tote bag without really touching anything else, and I can
Yeah,
hand sanitize my hands then before touching the car, and then I'll go and I'll hand sanitize my cards, my cards. I try and do that, when I've just gone out to the grocery stores or whatever, just to or uh, yeah, just to kind of make sure nothing's on. I mean, getting it through that is just so unlikely, but at the same time, because I have a 92-year-old grandmother at home,
you gotta be
I
super
I got to be
vigilant.
so careful. I have to be, yeah,
Well, and
and
me and
and
my
I'm like
friends
basically washing my entire like body face when I come in. Like they're like, it's like
Yeah.
hosing me down.
Well, and me and my friend, we'll go to the store together, and I'll sit in the car and wait for him to come back out, and
Yeah.
I'll get out and give him hand sanitizer and open up the doors and whatnot,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that he can, load up the car and whatnot, but f like, that way only one of us is touching
Yeah.
the disgusting stuff and doesn't have
Well,
to
and I
spread it to
think
any of our stuff.
the and someone quote me if I'm wrong, but I believe the sun kills the virus quite quickly, like within 5 minutes. Is what I'd read. So like on your car door handles, it's probably pretty safe. Like the
Oh, that's
sun's
good to
kind
know.
of, yeah. Really should check that before I go. Just
Yeah,
spreading that
don't go
misinformation.
spreading misinformation where you're gonna get people coronavirus.
Yeah. Well, this is when people can actually correct us too. On the ice, no one can
Well,
correct us. No one
and
can get the internet to load
the
fast
best
enough.
part is, who are you gonna give coronavirus? Nobody's listening to this.
Yeah. This is true. Yeah, no one ever listens to our show. Oh, yep, I'm wrong.
I
Some
bet
has
you
not been proven to kill coronavirus.
oh,
So
so yeah,
liars.
don't ever believe Bex.
Don't ever believe me. I'm full of lies. Imagine if someone did listen to the show right up until that point and then just stopped.
That's the one clip that they got of our show was just
Yeah,
that 12
that
seconds, and now they're dead.
and now it's full of lies.
I mean, we are pretty full of lies. I mean, I'd say since we don't fact check 100% of what we say, 95% of what we say is probably not right.
Yeah. I mean, we're used to just lying to everybody, so
Yeah, and there we can be more confident because, like you said, nobody can fact check us. Like, what are you gonna do? Use the internet?
yeah. That was our go-to.
Hey,
Uh,
I googled something. That's a good joke.
yeah, I got the internet to load. I got my computer to even log in.
Oh, so
Oh
good.
man, miss
I miss
Antarctica.
the slow internet. Yeah. Oh,
Except I'm really enjoying being able to watch Netflix.
what are you watching on the old Netflix?
What was I just watched this new show called uh Unorthodox. It's based on it's loosely based on a book this woman wrote about she was living as ultra orthodox Hasidic Jew in Williamsburg, New York, and she left that life and moved to Berlin. And
Hmm.
so it's her book. Her book is called Unorthodox. I believe her name is Deborah Feldman, and it's uh, yeah. So the book it's 4 parts. They're an hour each, and it kind of goes through in flashbacks, watching her get into having this arranged marriage, and kind of the first year of married life, and then also, but it also starts from when she leaves the community, and gets a she has citizenship from Germany through her mother and through her grandparents. So she kind of is able to get out and go to Germany. And it's really interesting way to see, you know, one person's perspective of uh, yeah, one person's perspective of being in the, you know, this community. And some people have critiqued it, saying, "Oh, this is making it sound like the, you know, ultra orthodox Hasidic Jews are terrible people." It's like, well, no, it's, they specifically didn't really talk about the community. They were talking about her specific story. But it was really well done. It's
Hmm.
most of it, the show's in Yiddish,
Oh,
and then it's also spoken a little in English and a little in German. So it was interesting to have, you know, it's like the first TV show ever to be spoken entirely in, I mean, like a popular show to be spoken in Yiddish on
yeah,
Netflix. Like,
I've never heard that. Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I've been watching.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I watched Chernobyl.
Oh, I watched that on the ice.
I
Very
mean,
good.
I know it's an old show and all, but
But we're, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've not. What's pop culture, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know if you know what's it if it if you know what it's
I don't
about.
know if you've ever heard of Chernobyl, Bex. Yes, I have, in
You saw
fact.
it,
Yes.
obviously. You know, I thought it was well done. It wasn't quite as it changed my perspective on the whole thing for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I didn't know a lot about it, to be honest. I really, you know, I knew a bit, but I did not know heaps about Chernobyl because it happened before I was born, and it's, you know,
mhm.
just wasn't really. But you know, I did. It was really interesting to see, and it's dramatized, and some of it's a little different than
Yeah.
from what actually happened. But it was quite interesting to see more of the details about it, and I didn't realize kind of what had led to it.
Well, and that's where I was kind of curious, like how much did they dramatize that side of things? In a sense, I mean, it's especially with like the whole court thing and the way that worked. It seems like it was
Hmm.
at least relatively real. The
Yeah,
concept of at least how what led up to it and what happened,
yeah,
which I didn't realize as well. As I like I had read quite a bit on it. Um, a few years back in a sense, but it was in my mind the perspective I had of it was a lot more accidental. Like obviously it wasn't intentional or anything like that, but
yeah.
it was less
It
that
was
could have been
less.
done to prevent it. You know, it
Yeah,
was like it was totally a fluke kind of thing is what it
yeah,
seemed like. Um and just the perspective I had of it was that a lot of the people involved, like the people they had that had to run up on the roof, you know, like you got
yeah,
90 seconds up there, you know, throw stuff in. Um,
yeah. Or those people that went down into the water.
yeah,
Those like
yeah.
three, yeah. And
I
I
mean,
was trying to look up about those guys, and there are different things about whether or not they did survive. You know, some people say they died immediately. Some say that, oh, they actually ended up living a long time.
I think they aren't even sure who those people really are,
Yeah,
in a
it's
sense.
just it's so. I mean,
I mean, it's the USSR, which is the worst part. It's like they didn't want anybody to know anything about it, so we don't have
there
so much
were no
information.
records. There
I
were,
mean,
yeah. It was just,
according to them, 31 people died, so
yeah, yeah,
that's you know it's one of those issues where it's but like the perspective I had was that those people were heroic and
yeah.
like they felt like they were doing like a civic duty where it seems more like they didn't quite know what they were doing and
It's like those first responders to the
those
very to the
firefighters
fire.
yeah
They
yeah
had
they had no idea
they
they
went
were
in and
just
they
walking in to
picked
put a
up
fire out
the brick, and
yeah
like their hand almost fell off from
yeah
the like uranium. And just, yeah, it's just,
and they had no idea and that's it seems like heroism to me, but at the same
yeah.
time, it's really just like
I mean,
it's more
it was
just sad
heroism
because they
because
were
you were,
lied to.
yeah, it's heroism because they were still going to
Oh, sure.
save people, but it wasn't quite as, they also
It
were
wasn't
being
like I'm
lied to
going to save
constantly.
humanity.
Yeah,
It was that
yeah.
idea of
It
I'm
didn't,
going to do my job, which is heroism for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Um,
But the fact that, you know, no one told them, hey, you know, I mean, and no one knew, no one believed that this thing could blow up at first. It's like, no, these things, like, this can't happen. That's ridiculous.
right?
And yeah, it's just, but then, you know, to afterwards to just keep keep lying. And you'd like to think that something like that could, I mean, I think it would be harder for something like that to happen now, but
I
it
don't know.
also, you wonder, could something that lie like that happen again? It's just,
I I would say yeah, pretty much. I mean, in some ways,
yeah.
it's we don't know so much about this whole thing, but like in some ways, it almost feels like the coronavirus bit in China.
Yeah,
I don't know what they've hidden because we don't know what we
we
don't
don't
know
know.
so much, and
Yeah,
it's almost feels like that kind of same thing where it's like they were trying to shush it up. We don't want to let people know.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, again, who
definitely.
knows? Maybe this is all just perception of how we viewed it, but I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
difficult thing.
It seems like it'd be harder to hide stuff now with social media and with, the internet, but
Oh, totally.
at the same time, it is
Well,
it depending on the country, it could be, or depending on, the new, I mean, you look at certain news sites these days, and they are perfectly fine with spreading misinformation and lies. So, it really,
totally. Well, and it seems like it's tough for something like that to happen, but at the same time, something like the government cutting off our phones could happen at any time.
yeah,
And if we have a disaster where they're like, oh, we don't want that information to spread,
yeah.
you
I
cut
mean,
off
they
people's
they could cut
phones and
off,
internet,
the
and
cell phone
yeah.
service. They could, they can put us, if they need to. They could put us total lockdown. I mean, just being ordered to shelter in place, I think, was a slightly crazy and a little disturbing idea, that they could do that. That we could be ordered to stay home and fined if we don't. And I think it's something, we value our freedom and our ability to move so much in this
Oh
country, that
yeah.
we don't realize that. I mean, there, and I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, I think the shelter in place is exactly what we should be doing, but it is a little.
It's hard for
It's
a lot of people to hear in that
Yeah,
sense.
it's startling to think that the government can do that. It's, you didn't even really realize that they
Yeah.
did have that power.
Well, and
So,
are you all at a point where, like, if you don't shelter at home, you can get fined?
I believe so. I think, we just had a new shelter in place order in effect for my county, for the whole state. For my specific county, we're allowed to move throughout the county for essential services.
Hmm.
Um, I have heard someone was talking about how cops were outside, like, Home Depots, and checking people's receipts, and if they weren't buying essential items, they were being fined.
Oh
But
wow.
this is all just rumors, so I haven't seen or heard anything direct.
Hmm.
So I'm not positive. But in the county next to me, in San Mateo County, they've part of their shelter in place order is you cannot go more than 5 miles away from your home unless it's
Oh
for
wow.
essential services. And I think that was to prevent people from going into their county, really, because that's where Half Moon Bay is, and it's some really, like, nice place to do hiking and biking and things like
Hmm.
that. So people are coming from other counties now that they're not, now that they're not working or whatever, and they're going over to the coast, and all these coastal counties are like, whoa,
They're getting
we could,
overwhelmed. Yeah.
yeah, we're like, get out, like, we do not want you here, we do not want you bringing the virus here. So, yeah.
It's interesting. I hadn't quite thought of things in that way. I honestly like if I have to do some shopping, I'll actually drive like an hour away,
Oh, really?
partially just to get out of my house.
Yeah,
Um, and have some. I love to drive. You know
yeah,
how that goes.
yeah,
So it's partially for that too. But I hadn't thought of, like, is that a bad thing to do? Like, should I
yeah.
be
I mean, because
staying at my
it is,
own
it
shopping
could
center?
it could potentially be either bringing the virus from that place to your area, or if you happen to catch it in your area, bringing it out. Yeah, it's it's a hard one. It is. I mean,
I mean, I guess, and it's this weird concept where, like, if I have the virus, if I have it, I'm spreading it to people. It's just different location of where those people
yeah,
are getting it. I don't like that. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I'm I mean, I'm going out. I'm the one person that goes out. No one else in the family does. I mean, they, go out for walks. My dad will go on a bike ride. But, like, I'm the one who goes to the grocery store. So I kind of, I've been seeing a physical therapist, which counts as essential services.
Hmm.
So when, I go to see the physical therapist, who is, wow, my physical therapist is better than most hospitals, I think. Like, she is on it. She is like, anytime someone comes with it, I mean, when you're seeing a physical therapist, you have to be
You're
within six
close.
feet. But
Yeah.
as soon as you come in, you have to wash your hand, sanitize your hand, your keys, your phone, everything is constantly disinfected. The She got a couple masks for her workers so that they're always wearing masks. And then anytime she goes from the patient to something else, she washes her hand, and then before she goes back to the patient, she washes her hands again, keeping that 6 feet distance. If you have a fever or a cough, you're not allowed in.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was so it's yeah. She's on it. But yeah, so I'll go to the physical therapist, and then I'll go to the grocery store, and I'll kind of time the grocery store run with a period where I'm already going out, and exposing myself to the world, and then yeah.
It is so that's another interesting part of like this whole thing is how we're actually dealing with it in public spaces. We're like we had to bring my friend's dog, we had to bring her to the vet.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the vet works now, like you pull into the vet and there's stop signs everywhere, like do not leave your car, kind of
Yeah,
thing. Like you pull into the parking lot and you call them up and they'll come out and take your animal from you and bring
yeah.
it in. You sit in your car.
Interesting.
And yeah, it was really interesting where like there's that whole like we sat in the car for half an hour while they saw the dog and did all the checkup, and then basically it was like they called him up and like, hey, these are this is what's up, blah blah blah, you want to pay over the phone kind of thing.
Yeah,
So it was definitely an interesting setup. And then it's like you go into stores and now all of a sudden, like, I mean, it's super smart because 6 feet is a weird distance. Most people don't know how far 6 feet
yeah.
is from each other. Like, so they started putting down lines of tape so you know how far 6 feet away is.
Yeah, yeah. It's like keep this distance right here. Your front of your shopping cart is
Mhm.
here, or you are here, or whatever. This is how far away. They put up
Well, yeah,
plexiglass in front of
yeah.
between
You and
the
the customer
grocery
service person.
worker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, I have to go to the doctor once a week to check up, follow up for my shoulder,
mhm.
and yeah, I call up. They check me in over the phone, and then I wait for them to call me. And then as soon as they call me, telling me the room's ready for me, then I go in straight to the room. There's no waiting in the waiting room. You wait in the car. It's that same thing, except I'm
Wow.
the dog.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting too. I hadn't thought about that side of things. That's
Yeah,
wicked.
it's,
Oh
it's,
gosh. Well, it's also
it's
like something else. I didn't realize how small things like aisles in stores are. Like most aisles
yeah,
are 6 feet wide. You can't walk by somebody. They
yeah.
need to start making aisles like one direction, and you have to stand in line to shop or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I found the grocery stores now. I mean, before, like the day before the shelter in place order took effect, um, that was just. I mean, we hadn't been doing this whole hoarding thing. We had 6 people in the house at that point, so we just running out of groceries and things we needed.
Yeah.
So my sister and I went to the my sister happened to be visiting right then, and but so we went to the grocery stores together, and it was just almost everything was gone off the shelves, massive queues. But then she ended up going back home right after the shelter in place sort of took effect, and then I went grocery shopping next week, to kind of stock up on some more of the stuff we're out of, and the grocery stores were almost entirely restocked. Paper towels, Kleenexes. That's hard to find. Instant noodles. Those are the most difficult things to find, but everything else is
Rice.
fully stocked. Oh, rice is fine. Pasta
Oh,
was a little
really?
bit iffy there, but pasta's back totally fine. Um, and all these things. It's I could just go to the store. There's not a lot of people. Like I think max I've seen there's like 30 people in the store, maybe 40. No one's
It's definitely
monitoring.
quieter in the store.
Yeah, everyone's kind of calmed down, and you're just going for what you need. And yeah, and so every once in a while I'll run into someone in an aisle, but not too often. And yeah, it's usually pretty empty. And you can't
We
bring your to go your bags
yeah,
in,
yeah, yeah.
your own bags. We're back to such stores aren't charging you for using their bags now
I was
anymore.
gonna say, yeah, you're in California, so you're used to that. Like my hometown, it just recently changed where they don't even have plastic bags in the store anymore.
Yeah,
So they definitely like they had to do like an emergency, like, hey, we got to get bags in because
we had banned plastic bags in this. county a couple years ago. Before that, they started charging for plastic bags a
Hmm.
few years before that, and then we banned plastic bags. But there are plastic bags in the stores to get in, at least in like Safeway that I've seen. Um, but a lot of other them are still just paper bags. But
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yes, to
have to use
pay
their
for them.
bags.
Or
No, but you
not
don't.
now, but
Not now, but yeah, yeah. Which I usually ended up paying for paper bags because I'm just terrible at remembering to bring my reusable bags. Just
I I've
awful at it.
I've bought like 5 or 6 new reusable bags since I got home
When
just because,
when I lived in New Zealand, almost every time I'd go to the store, I'd end up buying a new reusable bag because I kept forgetting mine in the car, and I
Yeah.
didn't really use like they didn't have paper. I didn't want to use their plastic, so I was like, okay, I'll just buy a reusable bag again. I had like 10 of them, and I was like, oh my! I started leaving them on like my dashboard on my front seat, so I'd be like,
Hmm.
please, for the love of God, just remember your bag.
Yeah, no, I remember like a couple years ago. I remember my first time going to a store in California, and I get I've got like a basket full of stuff, and I get up to the
Yeah.
thing and I start scanning, and I'm like, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do with all this stuff? I can't carry it out in my hands. Like, there's
I
no
feel like
bags anywhere.
that's like the transition to adulthood from like being a kid where like it's your parent that remembers the bag or that pays for the bag, and now you're like, oh God, I did the adult thing and I bought groceries, but how do I carry it? Oh no.
Well, I had no idea. It was the first time I'd ever dealt with a no bag situation.
Oh,
Oh gosh,
oh,
yeah, it's fun times. I
it
mean, it's great
is.
though. Like, yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
positive change.
yeah.
Um,
It is interesting to see all these little things that are changing and how we're able to how hard and how easy it is for us to change our behaviors to kind of deal with this situation,
yeah,
remembering not to touch your face and washing your hands frequently, 20 seconds. It's and now it's just habit. It's just, you do it so often, don't even have to think about it. It's
I don't know if you've noticed. I've been touching my face like this whole time.
I I've gotten a lot better about not touching my face. I don't know if I have been, to be honest. Every once in a while I'll go for a
You
cheeky scratch,
haven't.
but yeah.
It's a weird part of this whole thing too, where like I would notice if you touched your face.
Yeah.
Like I was watching. I don't remember what I was watching the other day, but like they got out into like a public space and everybody was like real close together, and I got really uncomfortable all of a sudden. Like, oh my gosh, get away from each other. Social
Coronavirus.
distancing.
Social distancing. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. It was a
yeah.
weird feeling, and like this hasn't even been that long, and that's something I
Yeah.
think about when I'm watching a movie.
Yeah. It's been how long has it been for so we
Um,
had our first shelter in place order on like the 16th or something. So it's been just like a couple days shy of 4 weeks for us. Sorry, of three
you
weeks.
mean yeah?
Three.
Has it really been really?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
been like just over 2.5 weeks, nearly three for us for the shelter in place.
Yeah, I got out of there just before your shelter in place order.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. When did
trying to
Washington
remember.
go into one?
A few days after yours.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
feel
had
like
gotten down
California
to
was one of the first to do a whole
yeah, the
well,
statewide.
the statewide. Yeah, so I think actually I take that back. I believe my the counties and the surrounding counties, like six Bay Area counties near San Francisco, we started on the 16th, but our statewide I don't actually believe started until like the 19th or something like that.
Yeah, now
It
that
was
I'm
a
looking
few
at
days
my calendar, I was gonna say like my road trip wise, I want to say 19th sounds right.
Yeah, 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 and then other states have slowly started following. I mean,
Cause
Florida and
yeah.
Georgia adjusted. Like parts, I
Hmm.
know parts of Georgia had shelter in place orders. Different counties that were affected by it, they had shelter in place orders, but then the whole state just did it. And I believe Florida was the same. Certain counties had shelter in place orders, but the
Yeah.
whole state finally did it. The governor finally did it. Yeah, it's just
Yeah, I'd
been
made it
weird.
down to almost Yosemite,
Oh, did you?
and
Almost
then
you
I
said.
almost Yosemite, and then I saw a sign that said, something about chains being required on your car, and I was like, well, I got to turn around. I don't have any chains.
Oh man.
I've never owned chains, nor have I ever put them on.
I can teach you
Um,
how to put on chains.
I feel like it's relatively easy.
It depends. It depends on the kind of chains you get. Some of the,
Oh,
and
really?
especially some of the ones that say like, easy to fit are the most difficult ones in the world to fit. And
Don't you
making sure
just
you
like
get the
lay
right
them
size.
down and like roll onto them and then like wrap them around the tire and clip
It
them together?
depends. So I mean, like my most of my chain fitting experiences with my buses,
Yeah.
and ours were big ladder chains. So you hold them up, and they literally just like look like rungs on a ladder.
Yeah.
And so for that, I would throw it over the tire. I mean, these were heavy chains. They're
Mm-hmm.
big tires. You throw them over the tire, and then you would I'd kind of line it up. So I would, if I was going to reverse onto them or drive forward onto them, um, how you have it laying on the tire, roll forward, and then latch them up and tighten them up. And then after like 100 meters, you're supposed to check it again.
To tighten them again or whatnot.
To just make sure, yeah, to just make sure it's properly tightened, because as you're moving they could move to fit,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to just retighten them. Um,
Just for
but
everybody that's not from NZ,
sorry,
that's New Zealand, 100 meters is about a football field.
yeah, a football field. Thank you.
Just
100
in
yards.
case. Some people are.
Just in case. But yeah, but so the like for me, those ladder chains are really easy to fit. But then you get
Mm-hmm.
these weird diamond ones, or these weird like, oh, just attach here and here and here, and they're like, especially in the car ones, they're so bizarre, and your
It's
brain is just
finding
like,
those right fitting
what?
points.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, making sure you bought the correct ones for
Oh
your
yeah.
size tire and all that stuff, and it's a bit of a nightmare. But
Yeah, we don't
yeah.
use tire chains here in Washington because
Well, and
snow.
when I snowed, no, we just rain. Well, I remember driving up to Tahoe with my parents when I was younger, and my dad did like lay the chains down and then drive onto them and then do it. So
Hmm.
I guess that's a way to do it. Or my preferred method was put them on, realize drive over them, realized I put them on the wrong way, reverse back off of them, put them on the correct way, drive over them. It always happens when like we had really bad chain days. There was one time and it just took me an like 45 minutes or an hour to put on my chains, because I put the two of the chains on wrong first. Like it was just, you're just trying to get up, and it's when you try and rush that you mess it up.
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
and I think it was my first real proper chain day in the big buses. Like I'd done them in shuttle, but like it was my first big proper chain day. Um and yeah, so I put them on. I put the wrong ones. I put the ones that should go on the front, accident I put them on the rear. um and yeah, so then I had to take them off, put those on the ones on the front, and when I went to put the ones on the rear, uh one of the chains was so tangled. I was spending like 20 minutes of this trying to untangle it. Another coworker comes along, he gets out of his bus to put on his chains, and he helps me, and together it takes us another like 5-10 minutes to untangle these chains. They were
Jeez.
so tangled, and it's like you got to feed it right, otherwise you're just,
Oh
and it's,
yeah.
oh my god, it was a nightmare, but it was absolutely hilarious to look back on. But yeah, it was like the most insane day on the mountain. We'd had, cars into the ditch, people just sliding everywhere. It took like 2.5 hours. Normally it'd take 30 minutes to get down the mountain, 45 to get into town. It took me like 2.5 hours to just get down the mountain. It was absolutely insane. Oh,
Gosh.
yeah. Memories. But yeah, chains are a pain in the
Chains.
ass.
Well, yeah, no, in that sense, yeah, no, I saw that sign going to Yosemite and I turned around and I pulled over and I'm like, where do I go now? And that's when I got a phone call and I was like, hey, you shouldn't come to Texas.
Yeah.
And it was like, I am going straight back to Washington.
Back to Washington.
I think I made it back, and I think I probably made it back the next morning is my guess. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, not the next morning, but the next day.
But yeah. Oh man. Oh, this whole situation.
I
It's
just want
crazy.
to be driving. To be honest, I wish I could just be driving across the country right now.
I was gonna do a trucking course and get my class A,
Uh huh.
and I was gonna start it about the 16th, 17th, and that's when I was in this shelter in place. I was gonna just pay. I was gonna get, commercial driver's license, just pay for it, and then try and find a job. And nope, not
Now
anymore.
you're not doing that.
Not doing that.
Not doing anything.
Nope.
Is there like an online CDL course?
Nope. Learn to drive the truck online.
That sounds
Oh,
sweet.
yeah. So I'm just gonna wait till everything opens up again, and then I'm not even sure if I'll work this summer. I mean, there might not be any real driving. It just depends on when things open, how tourism kind of rebounds. Like,
Right?
so it's. I mean, I'll get my commercial driver's license regardless this summer, but you know, I
I just
probably am
gotta
just gonna go with the fun employment for the summer.
I just got a call from my boss at the national park, and
Hmm.
he said that everything's kind of still on at this point, but it's at the same time still up in the air.
Yeah,
Um,
keep going as if it's gonna happen,
yeah,
but it could
um,
not.
but we're looking at like, I mean, I'm not supposed to start there till like mid late May anyway, so we got some time. But at the same time, who knows if they'll extend this, stay at home order another month, kind of
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
Trump just extended it to the 30th of April.
Yep,
I think California extended ours to like May 3rd. Uh,
ours is the 4th of May
yeah,
in
yeah. So
Washington.
yeah, so it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, gosh, yeah. No, this is also it's wild in the sense of it's very comparable. I feel like to the ice in the sense of like, hey, you're leaving next week, TBD. Um,
Everything's up in the air but the planes.
yeah. Oh, I
I
showed
need to make a
my parents
coronavirus
that
sticker
sticker
next
and they
year.
loved it.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like it's. I feel like it's so applicable with all the planes canceling as well. Like all the. I mean, they're
Oh,
still
yeah. Right
flying
now.
some domestic flights and international flights, but most of them are canceled.
Oh,
Just
totally. Like, I live right now. I'm staying in a place that's basically right next to SeaTac Airport.
yeah,
Um, so there's always planes flying overhead, except for right now. It's freaking quiet here. Like
yeah.
a plane here and there, but not much
But
at
not
all.
much. Yeah, it's
No,
pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts. I don't
it
know
really
how
is.
much traffic there is outside of San Francisco, but I mean it's a pretty big airport, and they are still doing flights domestically. Like you can,
Hmm.
so
I
yeah,
mean, there's still flights happening, but it's definitely not many of them. Definitely
yeah.
not.
And I think,
Um,
and I'm not positive, but I feel like they've kind of lowered their max. Like they're not going 100% capacity on
no,
flights when
no.
when they hit some certain capacity. Um,
I think they're
they
doing one person per 3 seats.
is that what it is?
I think so.
I'm trying to remember how to spell coronavirus. Jesus. There we go.
Like at least a lot of them are doing 1 to 3 seats. Yeah, and at this point, I don't think they're even filling that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that they're flying with like 10 people on board tops,
Yeah. Oh
which
man.
is wild.
Yeah. I haven't seen any numbers for the capacity. Seat capacity coronavirus. Try to look it up, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
interesting.
oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, I saw a video of LAX the other day. Empty. I mean, none
Yeah.
of the stores are open for sure.
Yeah.
And there was like they did like a 360 pan, not a single person in that
Yeah.
video,
Oh my
which is
gosh.
wild in
That's
LAX. Like,
nuts. I can't
gosh, I
even
hate
imagine that.
LAX.
I hate Chicago. I hate O'Hare. I
I've
hate
never been
O'Hare.
there.
Oh my god, it is a nightmare of a place. It's just oh,
Is
it is
that
my
is that
least.
maybe the airport that's in Home Alone?
It might be. God, it's been a while since I've watched Home Alone
God, I love Home Alone. That Macaulay Culkin, Whew, he knew how to play a kid with problems.
because he grew up to be a kid with problems.
Whew, that might have
Oh
hit a little
man,
close to home for him. You ever seen that video by chance of him like he's like an Uber driver or something?
no.
Macaulay Culkin? Like he picks some people up and then he starts telling them about his childhood and like, oh gosh, there was these guys, they like tried to break into my house and I had to defend it against them. Like my parents left me at home. Like he's just talking about like basically he's playing the Kevin McAllister
Yeah,
grown up. Oh, it's so good.
I
So
don't even
good.
think I've seen Home Alone 2.
Oh, it's so good. Lost in New York? Yeah.
Yeah, and
He's
there's a
it's
Home Alone 3, I think, but
yeah, no, that don't even
not with
go. Home
don't even
Alone,
go.
there's nothing after Home Alone 2. There's only the 2.
How many did they actually make? Are there actually
I
like
think there's
seven or something?
4.
Oh my
maybe
god.
4, maybe 5 even. Who
Oh my
knows?
god.
I mean, when it's as successful as the first two, you can't stop there, can you?
Yes, yes, you can.
And at that
They
point, Macaulay
don't.
Culkin would have been a bit old, and it would have been like, it's okay that you're stuck at home alone. You're like 14
Yeah.
now.
Home Alone throwing a party. Home Alone parents coming home.
Oh, gosh, that's
Oh
funny.
my god.
That would have
Oh.
been way better. Like Home Alone 3, like uh, breaking the party, something like that.
Yeah. Home
Yeah,
Alone 3. Oh man, we could spend forever trying to come up with titles for these.
I could Home Alone 3 all day, as long as it's not the Home Alone 3 that actually happened.
Yeah. Now, okay, now I gotta look up how many Home Alone movies there were.
I think Home Alone 3 had that kid in it that was in all those movies around that time.
That kid in it? Wow, you're helpful. Home
um,
Alone franchise.
oh, it's a franchise now, is it?
Home Alone came out in 1992. Or sorry,
Oh,
1990. Home Alone 2 came out Lost in New York 1992. Home Alone 3 97. Home Alone 4 Taking Back the House in 2002 and Home Alone The Holiday Heist in 2012.
they haven't made one in 8 years.
They made one in 2012, but they're in August 2019
Oh,
announced that Disney CEO announced because of the acquisition of 21st Century Fox by
mm.
Disney CEO Bob Iger announced that the reboot of the Home Alone series is in development and will be released as a Disney Plus exclusive.
Oh, you know what
You
I
know
think they
what?
should do? They should get Macaulay Culkin, and he's got a kid that he leaves at home.
That would be phenomenal. I thought buying Disney Plus would be super dumb, but I was kind of running out of things on Netflix, so I was like, okay, I'll do that first week free trial or whatever that they have,
Yeah,
and it's all of my childhood shows and movies. Like I can watch all of those stupid Disney Channel original movies, and
like Brink.
I'm loving every single second of it. I am
I guess
watching
that
them
free
all.
week would be reasonable.
Yeah, except now I'm paying for it because and it's $7 a month, and I don't even care. I can watch
It's
Kim
worth every
Possible
penny.
or even Stevens or Lilo and Stitch. Like I was so stoked. Phil of the Future, like all of these
I feel like you're just talking
crappy
about how
ass
young you
kids.
are.
Yeah, I know. But all these crappy little shows that I and like Disney Channel original movies that I watched as a kid that was like
Oh, they
really
were
part
so
of my
good.
childhood.
They were so good.
Yeah, it's like now I can watch them and I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked.
It was like that movie
It's
about the
also
kid that
really
turned
hard to
into a
watch.
mermaid, like
What was that?
13 or something like that.
I don't
I
remember
don't
that
know.
one.
He turned 13 and then he started to turn into a mermaid
Whoa.
or a merman. Merman, Dad.
I watched the new Lady and the Tramp, the
Oh,
live action Lady and the Tramp, the Lion
was it good?
King.
Were they good?
I thought they were good. I'm not saying movies are in my opinion these movies when they're rebooting all of these, it's just a new way to see my childhood. It's a new take on this childhood movies. And I mean some of these movies came out in like the 50s, but you know what I mean, like the things that I
Yeah,
grew
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's just or that anyone grew up with. It's just a new take on it, a new way of doing it, but they're not necessarily some award winning movie. Like, it's still the same movie. They've just, done it with their 3D, with their, all
Live
their
action. Yeah.
CGI and live action and whatnot. But it is kind of cool to see how they can do it. I mean, I liked Lady and the Tramp. I liked The Lion King. I know some people didn't like them. Watching animals move their mouths is a little bit weird. But at the same time, like I thought they were good. They and move their mouths like talking like
I,
humans. I
I,
mean,
I
yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
It just watching
You
animals
know,
move their
watching
mouths
animals move
is
their
weird.
mouths. They don't talk. They don't make noises.
Animals don't get to move their mouths ever.
Yeah, they just silently, make noises. But no, but it's Rob's dying. But it's it is cool. Like it is cool to watch the CGI and just how they do it, and it's just fun. It's fun.
It's fun. And it's fun. Have you
It's
been
just
quarantined too long? Especially with your family, right?
oh my god, please save me.
Uh,
Oh, I do love my family. I'm just the kind of person, like, I've lived away from home for 3 years. Like, I mean, I lived halfway around the world. I lived in New
Yeah.
Zealand and went
Oh
to
yeah.
Antarctica. Like, being back home is just not really the place I
It's good
wanted
to
to
have some
be.
space.
It's the what?
It's good to have some space.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think you said
Yeah.
it's the cats and space. I was like,
Oh, it's
what?
it's the cats in space. It's a space cat.
Space cat.
It's what I call a space pizza cat, actually. It's a piece of pizza that looks like a cat, and it's in space. That's right, a space pizza cat.
Oh my god. I so don't miss you.
I mean, is it as bad as a water meowing? That's
I
right.
forgot you made
That's
all of those
that's a
memes.
watermelon that looks like a cat. I didn't make any memes. I sent
You're
pictures.
sounding like Ivan again when you laugh.
Cannot do it.
For those of
It's
you that don't know, Ivan the Terror Bus is one of the things we drive on the ice. And Ivan makes some squeak. Ivan's
all.
old. I mean, Ivan's as old as me. Actually, he was
Isn't
born
he
a day
older?
before me. He was his on the little plaque inside him said he was born December 10th, 1993, and I'm December 11th, 93. But I think
Well,
his engine is from the 70s.
I was gonna
So
say, for
and it's
everybody's reference, Bex, while she's not young, has aged much better than Ivan has.
yes. Well, Ivan has also spent his 26 years on Antarctica, on an
Yeah,
icy, desolate continent. I feel like if I spent my first 26 years of life just in Antarctica, I would look a lot older too. Like,
yeah. It's probably spent like tops 2 weeks of its life over 40 degrees.
yeah, yeah. It's a rough life for him. But he makes a lot of squeaking, leaking noises, and Rob laughs like that. And Rob will just start
Uh,
wheezing and get
it's
him
yeah, it's
laughing
a
really hard.
wheeze.
It's a wheeze.
You guys
Oh
ever
my
seen
god.
that Toy Story, that wheezy penguin?
It's the same.
Oh,
Oh my god.
gosh,
Oh
it's a good life. Oh gosh,
man. Oh, well, on that note,
I feel like this has been fun.
this has been great. I need to eat
Uh,
lunch
but yeah, that does seem like a great place for us to stop.
with the wheezing.
Yeah, with my great laughter.
Yeah,
Uh,
and your face for radio.
yeah, well, luckily for everybody out there, they can't see it.
Yeah. Oh god.
It's just you that's
Just
being
me that
tortured with
has
it.
to. Yeah.
Uh,
We figured we should like Skype each other or Google Hangouts video chat each other while we do this show. Because there's a lot that you get from just seeing the other person, but then it's like I'm still near him. It's like I still can't get away.
I feel like the lot that we get from this is that we have to see each other, and it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, thanks so much for listening, everyone. Even though, let's be real, no one is. Especially right now since we're just recording it, but no one's ever going to listen to this. I think like
There'll be all
obligatory.
those bored, lonely ice people.
Yeah, yeah. Ryan will listen. We know Ryan will listen.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I mean,
He's
he can't do
quarantined
anything
without
else.
Alyssa.
Well, he's quarantined without Alyssa, and he got his wisdom teeth out, so he's just sitting there, you know, feeling sad and pain.
One's gone all bad.
So now we'll just make it worse. He has to listen to our voices. Oh, oh! I just totally lost your sound. Oh, well, this is a great time to end because I can't hear you anymore. Okay. I sure hope someone can. I don't know if it's catching you. Well, until next time. Bye, guys.